Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Monday, April the 21st, 2025. By the way, 1 week from tonight, it's election night, obviously, and we'll be doing an election special that night. I'll have the election results pouring in. We'll be going through them, riding by riding by riding, and hopefully we can pull it off here. You know, here's the way I think of it before we get into tonight's show. It looks to be the Conservatives cornering the young person's vote, the working man's vote, working woman too. And it looks like the Liberals probably have got the upper crusts of society, the boomers. And I'm wondering who there's more of. And I'm wondering who's going to get out there and actually vote. I put up a poll on my Facebook page a few hours ago. Have you voted yet? Did you vote in the advance polls this past weekend, or are you waiting for election day? And some people say, I'm waiting for election day because if you vote in advance, who knows what's going to happen to your ballot? We've heard stories about some of these election workers taking boxes of ballots home with them for safekeeping because they didn't know what else to do with them. Now, we haven't verified that. There is absolutely no way to verify that without eyewitness reporting. But we do know it happened in the British Columbia election last fall. And people are now extrapolating that it could happen federally as well, even though there is no proof. That is a rumor that's been flying around that probably should be put to rest for now, but it certainly puts suspicion in people's minds, doesn't it? So we don't know what's going on. They're supposed to go into a special storage area for safekeeping until the time they're to be counted, which is 1 week from tonight, not to somebody's basement or garage or bedroom closet. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by Canada Nano Silver, CanadaNanoSilver.com. Check it out.
It's amazing. It has several natural health benefits, and it's been used for hundreds of years for health and healing. That's the main reason they made silverware from silver. But seriously, this nano silver from Silverceuticals is the best and safest silver you can find. There are hundreds of studies and reports on it. I've read some of the studies myself, and it's mind-blowing. One of the things that sets Silverceuticals apart is that it washes out of your body in 24 hours. No silver buildup and no turning blue. And it won't even harm the good bacteria your body needs. It's so effective, they can use very small concentrations of silver, like 10 and 32 parts per million, and still outperform other silvers that have up to 3,000 parts per million. It's safer and more effective at the same time. It is an incredibly small particle that is small enough to work through your body, but big enough not to fall out of suspension. They infuse it into almost all of their products. It works in facial serums, toothpaste, gels, and even gummies that work to help your immune system.
CanadaNanoSilver.com, the website, and the telephone number to get a hold of Kevin and Anna. Ask some questions. If you have some questions about these awesome products, 204-808-9292. All kinds of testimonials and scientific studies and all the information you really need is on the website. And you can make your order there as well, CanadaNanoSilver.com. Hello, Kathy. How are you doing tonight? Bev is watching in Fort Mac. Hello, Donata, watching in Lethbridge, Alberta. Hello, Angela. RJ, who seems to be watching hockey and this show at the same time. Hello, Joyce. How are you doing? Shelley is watching in the Okanagan. Hello, Barb, watching in southern Manitoba. David is watching from Spruce Grove, Alberta. Jonathan's watching in Newcomerstown, Ohio. Hello, Mike, Ellen, Martin, Kim, Derek, Linda, Giselle. Giselle, the first winner of a Shadow at Night coffee mug. Congratulations, Giselle. Lucette, Stephanie, Laura. And over on Rumble, we've got Vilma, Roween, Fartnock and Poohead, Bailey 242424, Mommy's Little Monster, Riznan 3PR, whatever platform you're watching on tonight. Don't forget to like and share, guys. Get this out to as many people as you possibly can. Please and thank you. All right, let's look at this. The Pope has died. On Easter Monday, the Vatican News says, even though there's no such thing as Easter Monday, it's Easter Sunday, not Monday. That's a union thing. He was 88. 9:45 a.m., Cardinal Kevin Farrell, Carmengo of the Holy Roman Church, announced the death of Pope Francis from the Casa Santa Marta with these words. Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis. At 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and of his church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and most marginalized. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the one and true God. Well, it seems like not everybody is upset with this news today. Remember Archbishop Vignano? Archbishop Vignano, yeah. He was excommunicated last year. But I think a whole bunch of Catholics who chose not to get that shot, remember that shot? The shot we've talked about so much for the past 3 or 4 years? Those that chose not to get that of the Catholic faith were left standing there alone by the Pope, by the Holy Father, by the Pontiff, by their leader. Pope Francis, this is from 3 years ago now, over 3 years from the Associated Press. Pope Francis denounced fake news about COVID-19 and vaccines Friday, blasting the distortion of reality based on fear, but also urging that people who believe such lies are helped to understand true scientific facts. Yeah, we understand the facts, all right. Here's Archbishop Vignano talking about the Pope and the Catholic Church about a year and a half ago before or maybe just as he was being excommunicated. Watch.
Revolution terrorized by Klaus Schwab and the family of international finance find in Bergoglio not a neutral spectator, which would itself already be an unheard of thing, but actually a zealous cooperator who abuses his own moral authority in order to support ad extra, outside the church, the project of the dissolution of traditional society. While ad intra within the church, he pursues the project of the demolition of the church in order to replace her with a philanthropic organization of Masonic inspiration. And it is scandalous. This applies to both, to civil and ecclesiastical world, confirming the pactum sceleri, the criminal conspiracy between the deep state and the deep church. It seems to me that in this conspiracy, the role of the Jesuit has been decisive. It is no coincidence that, for the first time in history, a religious of the Society of Jesus is seated on the throne of Peter.
He believes that this Pope was a member of the Order of the Jesuits or a Mason or somebody who was trying to actually bring the church down from within. And I can only imagine right now the war that is going on at the upper echelons of the Catholic Church. Can you believe, I guess, you know, if you saw Godfather 3, here I am correlating the movies, I know, but I mean, there's nothing on earth that escapes corruption. Nothing. And sometimes we have a terrible time wrapping our heads around that. Because once again, we go back to the old axiom of they'd never do that. They can't do that. That's the Pope. No way. No, he can't be evil. But when you say they'd never do that, you're referring to yourself and your own moral code. You'd never do that. They would do anything. They would do anything. So the Archbishop had a few words today as well, and he put them out on X, and here they are. And he does not refer to the Pope by his chosen Pope name. He goes back to his surname, the one he had at birth before, because all popes, they change their names when they become Pope, right? So here's what Archbishop Vignato said today. In 2018, Eugenio Scalfari reported the words that Bergoglio, that's the Pope, supposedly confided to him about his vision of the afterlife. He said, "Sinful souls are not punished. Those who repent obtain God's forgiveness and join the ranks of souls who contemplate him. But those who do not repent and cannot therefore be forgiven disappear. There is no hell. Sinful souls simply disappear." These heretical ravings are directly opposed to the Catholic faith, which teaches us that there is a particular judgment for everyone, which Bergoglio, again the Pope, could not escape. His soul is therefore not disappeared, nor has it dissolved. He will have to account for the crimes he has committed. First of all, having usurped the throne of Peter in order to destroy the Catholic Church and lose so many souls. But if this non-Pope and anti-Pope can no longer harm the mystical body, his heirs still remain, the subversives whom he has invalidly created cardinals and who have long been organizing themselves to ensure a continuator of the synodal revolution and the destructuring of the papacy. In support of them are also the conservative cardinals and bishops who have been careful not to question the legitimacy of Jorge Bergoglio. It's on these people that the greatest responsibility for the outcome of the next conclave falls. Again, I believe there is a war going on right now at the very upper echelons of the Catholic Church, and it's good against evil. Some people are trying to put together these two things that happened so closely together in the last 24 hours. The Pope dies, Klaus Schwab steps down. Now, we knew that Klaus Schwab was going to be stepping down. He said it in May of last year. And finally, he just came out with the announcement today. Maybe it has, one thing has to do with another. If it does, I haven't put it together yet. There are some financial analysts who are like us out there, truth seekers, freedom fighters, who seem to believe there is some sort of weird financial thing going on right now. But I watched some of those videos this afternoon and I couldn't put it together. It just didn't seem to make sense. But then again, this could have everything to do with CBDCs, digital currency, digital ID, Mark Carney. And I've got a theory about Mark Carney that I'm going to throw out to you in just a second. Davos Meet founder Klaus Schwab steps down from the World Economic Forum board. What was his exact wording here? Said it is in his 88th year, something like, yeah, here it is. Schwab informed the World Economic Forum's board that as I enter my 88th year, I have decided to step down from the position of chair and as a member of the board of trustees with immediate effect. So they've already got their secession plan in place. It's just a matter of time before it all rolls out. Schwab stepped down as executive chairman last year with former Norwegian Foreign Minister Borje Brende taking over daily management. The WEF said Vice Chairman Peter Brabeck-Letmathe was appointed board chairman in the interim and that a search committee for replacement had been appointed. The WEF's board hailed Schwab's outstanding achievements in his 55 years as the leader of the organization. Okay, all right, fine, good. So, who's going to take over for Klaus Schwab? Well, as far as I'm concerned, the next logical choice is Mark Carney. Now, if they can't fix the election in Canada, and they can't, and I don't think the Liberals are going to win. I could be completely off the mark here, but I think the Conservatives are going to win this next election, and they're going to have a majority government. I believe it's going to be razor thin. They might get 175, 176 seats, but they are going to win. Why else would Klaus Schwab step down so abruptly? Because there's only one person. There is only one person, one logical person to take over for Klaus Schwab, and that would be Mark Carney. Yeah, they tried to put him in as Prime Minister of Canada, and it's not working out so well for them. Maybe. So I'm going to vacate my role as the chairman of the World Economic Forum. Mark Carney is the one to step in. Mark Carney, here he is babbling about an extra 100. Now, I know there's some people, some boomers out there who are buying this nonsense. And there's that one boomer in particular that you've seen out there on social media who's gone viral in the last couple of days. And we'll put up a short video of him in just a second. But who else would buy this nonsense? Listen to him talk. This is about 90 seconds worth of complete and total drivel, talking about adding an extra on top of what they already spend, these Liberals, another $130 billion. And then he says the budget will balance within 4 years. Is he insane? Watch him.
In your platform, your COSA platform you released today, you outline almost $130 billion in new spending, but a shrinking deficit over the next 4 years. How and why should Canadians believe your numbers add up?
Well, first off, thanks for the question. The numbers do add up very much. And I'd make a couple of distinctions here. What we're doing is we're taking government spending, which has been growing too fast. It's been growing at 9%, the operating spending, and we're focusing in on that, reducing duplication, finding efficiencies on through the delivery of various programs, using technology, capping the federal public service, which has grown by 40% over the last 10 years. So a series of measures that are going to make government more effective, reduce the cost of that spending, reduce the rate of growth of that spending. And then the second thing that we're doing, very importantly, so that's spending less. And the second thing that we're doing is we're not spending that amount of money, we're investing that amount of money. So we're using very limited government resources to catalyze enormous private sector investment. And that's what drives this economy forward. That's what meets this moment.
We're not spending, we're investing, you idiot. Don't you understand? For goodness sakes. Now, he's been flip-flopping. He's been going back and forth on balancing the budget, and this headline from the National Post shows that. In an interview last week, he said, yeah, we'll balance the budget within 4 years. I think he may have even said that during the debates last week. This headline says something different. Liberals promise $130 billion in new spending, no timeline to balance the budget. So what's it going to be, Mark? You guys know Whitney Webb, right? Let me throw this up on the screen real quick here. Whitney Webb. Here is a post she made on X not so long ago. Mark Carney, Canada's new yet unelected prime minister, has spent the last several years selling a new version of neo-colonial debt slavery as sustainable development. A complete snake. She said, please read my post, my past reports on his predatory endeavors. And her place is called The Hangout, and it's on Substack. So what somebody has done here is they've taken Whitney's voice and they've used AI to have her read her own stuff from her Hangout on Substack. And I thought it was tremendous. So listen to this. This is a little bit long. It's about an 8-minute piece, but it's well worth listening to. And for anybody who might be on the fence, if you know anybody who might be on the fence in terms of how they're going to vote next Monday, please drag them to your phone or your computer or your TV or whatever you're watching on right now, or share this with them and tell them to go to the 19-minute mark. This is very important information. Everybody needs to hear this.
Carney isn't stepping into power to protect Canadian sovereignty. He's here to dissolve it. This is not an elected leader with a mandate from the people. This is a banker groomed by global institutions, positioned at the helm of the most powerful central banks in the West, and now parachuted into Canada's top office in the middle of an engineered crisis. Carney was governor of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 crash. Then he was handed the top job at the Bank of England, becoming the first non-Brit to hold that position in over 3 centuries. That wasn't a promotion. That was placement. A signal to the global financial elite that Carney wasn't just one of them. He was ready for the next phase of the project. And that project is global governance, technocratic control, a world where countries exist in name, but real decisions are made by unelected bureaucrats, asset managers, and central banks.
Now, I'm going to stop it for just a second. And one of the reasons I'm saying that Carney is probably the logical one to step into Klaus Schwab's shoes, what good is he going to do as the Prime Minister of Canada? And they maybe thought back in January, well, this will be good. You know, we'll put Carney into Canada and he'll be able to get our operation going there. But now that Klaus Schwab has stepped down, and maybe Klaus Schwab stepped down because he knows Carney's not going to win. Or maybe he stepped down because he's got a health condition and they need somebody in that spot, somebody who has been following the whole plan, the whole time, a disciple of Klaus Schwab. Mark Carney is that guy. Would he be more useful to them as the chairman of the World Economic Forum or as the Prime Minister of Canada? Let's continue.
Carney has never hidden his loyalties. He's a key figure within the World Economic Forum, a trusted architect of Klaus Schwab's Great Reset. He doesn't just support stakeholder capitalism, he helped design its playbook. He spent the last several years preparing the framework for an economic transition that replaces national interest with global compliance, freedom with surveillance, and sovereignty with dependency. Carney's language is the same coded language used by every WEF loyalist: sustainability, resilience, inclusion, and climate finance. But decode that language and the reality is much darker. What they call climate finance is the commodification of nature, turning forests, oceans, carbon footprints, and even your personal behavior into financial instruments to be tracked, traded, and controlled. It's not about protecting the environment. It's about creating a new asset class for the elite. And once human behavior becomes an asset, it can also become a liability, something to be taxed, fined, or restricted. This is Carney's real vision for Canada, not protection from Trump, but deeper integration into a technocratic system designed in Davos and enforced through digital chains. He is a leading proponent of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which are being marketed as efficient and modern, but are, in fact, tools of unprecedented control. Programmable money means conditional money. money that can be restricted based on who you are, where you are, what you say, or how you behave. Pair that with digital ID systems, biometric tracking, and algorithmic decision-making, and the result is a digital prison where your ability to participate in society depends on your willingness to comply with the demands of unelected global institutions. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is openly admitted policy. Carney has published it. The WEF has published it. The Bank for International Settlements has published it. What they need now is public consent, or at the very least, public submission.
Carney is a central figure in what's being called the Great Reset, playing a pivotal role in pushing Klaus Schwab's dystopian vision. He's a strong advocate for stakeholder capitalism, a model where global corporations, not governments, hold the power, all while cloaking it in the language of sustainability and inclusion. The truth behind these terms, including the promotion of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, reveals a digital prison, not a financial innovation. Carney's rise isn't about protecting Canada from external threats, including Trump. It's about integrating Canada into a global system that's already in motion. His vision for Canada isn't about preserving its national identity, but dismantling it entirely. Under his leadership, technocracy replaces democracy, where unelected elites like Carney manipulate policies for control. According to Whitney Webb, the technocratic future isn't a distant threat. It's already here. Let's hear more from her interview.
Enter Trump. Yes, Trump's rhetoric is hostile. Yes, his tariffs are aggressive, but that aggression is being weaponized, not resisted, by people like Carney. It creates the chaos needed to justify the solution, the elevation of so-called responsible technocrats into positions of unaccountable power. Carney steps in not as a champion of Canadian independence, but as the system's answer to Trump's disorder. But the order being offered is not democratic. It's not even Canadian. It's global governance disguised as national leadership, a managed transition from self-rule to centralized oversight, not from Washington, but from Davos, Basel, and BlackRock. Carney won't resist the encroachment. He will facilitate it. Because he's not here to lead, he's here to manage the integration, the merging of financial systems, defense strategies, digital infrastructures, and social controls. And this didn't start with Carney. It's been building for decades through trade agreements like NAFTA and USMCA, through partnerships in biometrics, cybersecurity, and cross-border data regulation. But Carney represents the final phase, the normalization of technocracy, the replacement of politics with procedure, of freedom with functionality, of leaders with managers. He doesn't rant like Trump. He doesn't posture like Trudeau. He speaks with the calm, measured tone of a man who knows the future is already written, and your vote isn't part of it. So while the media sells him as the adult in the room, what we're really getting is a global enforcer in a Canadian mask. A man who speaks for the institutions that created the financial crisis, profited from the pandemic, and are now positioning themselves as the saviors of the climate emergency. It's the same playbook: crisis, reaction, control, and behind it all is a vision of the world that has no room for national identity, individual liberty, or democratic resistance. Only metrics, only compliance, only systems. So ask yourself, is Carney really standing between Canada and Trump? Or is he helping to deliver the country into something far more dangerous, a system where sovereignty is obsolete and your freedom is just a temporary privilege, subject to revocation? This isn't about one man, it's about the machine he represents, and unless we name it, expose it, and reject it, Canada may soon become the test case for a new model of governance, one where elections still happen, but the outcome is always the same: rule by the unelected, enforcement by the digital, and ownership by the few.
Like
Mark
China.
Carney's rise to power in Canada isn't about saving the country. It's about folding it into a larger, faceless global technocratic machine that treats national sovereignty like an outdated relic. While the world's been distracted by trade wars and border squabbles, Carney and his cohorts have been quietly orchestrating the demolition of independent nations, turning them into pawns in a global marketplace. And what are they selling? Your freedoms. Under the guise of buzzwords like sustainability and resilience, Carney's agenda isn't about protecting the environment. It's about controlling every aspect of your life. And it gets worse. Soon, human behavior won't be something private or personal. It'll be a marketable asset, tracked, monitored, and traded like stocks. According to Whitney Webb, everything about you could soon be tracked, quantified, and controlled, from your diet to how often you fly, even down to your political opinions. In this emerging system, every aspect of your behavior will be scrutinized to determine if you're playing by the rules. She warns of the rise of programmable money, where access to your funds could be restricted based on your actions. Step out of line, and your bank account could be frozen, robbing you of your financial freedom. But the control doesn't stop there. Webb foresees a world where digital identities, biometric tracking, and surveillance algorithms determine who has access to what. This isn't a distant dystopia. Today's web tracking and facial recognition are the beginning, and Carney's vision promises an even more invasive future. This digital technocracy isn't some accidental byproduct of progress, Webb argues. It's the result of engineered crises, economic crashes, pandemics, and geopolitical tensions, all orchestrated to create chaos, paving the way for even tighter control. The more we embrace this digital world, the more we surrender our privacy, autonomy, and freedom, all under the guise of efficiency and global cooperation.
So what is it they're using to keep people under control? And what is it they have been using for years now, but especially these past 5 years? What is it? Write it down in the comments. I want to hear what you say. What are they using to maintain control? To keep you going where they want you to go? Michael, you're absolutely correct. It's fear. It is fear. Regina, same thing. You guys are all right. TV news, yeah, but what do they pump? They pump fear. Look at this. National Post headline from last week. New poll shows Liberals riding the fear vote. Tories winning hope as the gap narrows slightly. And the polls have tightened, in case you care, over the past few days. 42, 43, Tories, Liberals, the NDP at 6, the Bloc at 6 or 7. I expect the Conservatives will win this in the end. And I'm hoping that more and more and more people start to wake up to the reality of the situation that we're all in here. This guy won't. You could sit and actually try to have a conversation with this guy, and it never will happen. But I thought this little vignette was pretty brilliant. Let's watch this. That's the fingers up boomer from the Brampton rally, the Brampton Mark Carney rally a little while ago. Oh, and I've got one more video. I almost forgot about it. I've got one more video taken by Karima Sad and Daisy Media. Let me see if I can find it here real fast. It's funny. While I'm looking, let's throw this up here. Here's a couple of ladies who are on our side, and they can't figure out why it was terrible to fly a Canadian flag just 2 or 3 years ago. And it's awesome now. Watch them here.
The patriotism.
But 2 years ago, we weren't allowed to wave Canadian flags. Now all of a sudden it's okay.
Yeah.
What changed?
Yeah.
What changed?
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because I remember, what was it, 3 years ago in Canada Day, and everybody was wearing orange and stuff like that. Now all of a sudden it's changed, right?
Yeah, you know, elbows up.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, the people that are here are the same people that vilified the Freedom Convoy. Mm-hmm. These are the people here that wanted their heads smashed in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now they're all waving their flags, you know. Canada, what do they say? Canada
First? Or?
No, Canada First is Poilievre's thing.
Team Canada.
Team Canada?
Yeah.
No. No. Team Canada is Team Liberal, Team Communist, as far as I'm concerned, because we are going, right now, I consider Canada being captured. we've been captured. And I think what Trump is doing is he's trying to wake people up, but obviously it's not happening. Waking up to the fact that Canada is China's beachhead, and they're right on the U.S. border. So why are not people talking about the China tariffs? The 100% tariffs on canola, our seafood, and our pork.
Yeah.
Not a word.
Yeah.
Silence.
Yeah. No, I agree. And also, it's also saying that some people say China is the ones who produce the fentanyl as well, right? Like,
well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And we have Chinese police stations in our country.
Yeah.
But this, I find that people just turn on their TV and that's where they get their instructions.
Yeah.
Guys, I think there's a lot of people out there who are awake to this nonsense. And I think the nonsense that they're spouting out on social media is just a suppression tool designed to keep you away from voting. Record turnout for advance voting this past weekend. Over 2 million Canadians cast their votes this past weekend. I was one of them. I voted for Hope. Okay, I promised you that elbows up video from Brampton. I think it was Karima Sad who took this video with some help from Daisy and maybe Right Blend, but it's actually kind of funny, the music they put underneath it. So let's watch. It's fine. Hang on a minute. It's fine. That guy with the fingers, that guy is getting a lot of play on social media. But this guy here, he should get more, I think. These are some nice guys out here. Good grief. Please don't tell me those are the people who are going to decide the future of our country. Please. Oh, good Lord. Okay, is there some kind of election interference going on? I already told you, and I'm going to throw this up on the screen again earlier in the show, that yes, staff from BC or Elections BC were taking home these advanced ballot boxes during their election last fall. Elections BC allowed staff to take ballots home during advanced voting week. That has been extrapolated now to federal employees. There's absolutely zero proof that Elections Canada is allowing their people, volunteers or employees, to take home ballots for the next few days for safekeeping until they need to be counted next Monday night. We have not heard that, not at all. So people are taking that BC story from last fall and they're saying, well, what if they do this? No, we have not heard anything about that. And I've got people all over the country that I talk to regularly, and they would let me know if something like that was going on. As of right now, I can say to you confidently, we have not heard a thing about that. But our friend Tiana Truthseeker, a friend of hers, seems to have found another way they can screw with the election. And I hadn't heard of this before, aside from the fact that they're providing pencils at voting stations. Now I understand some areas are providing pens and Sharpies as well. I brought my own Sharpie this past weekend. So if you haven't voted yet, you're going to vote next Monday, bring your own Sharpie with you. Don't put anything down in pencil. All right. Let's hear what Tiana has to say.
This is an emergency broadcast for all Canadians. I think they're screwing with the election. Last night, I got a text from my best friend. I've known her for 18 years. She was the maid of honor at my wedding. Basically, I know she would not be making this up. She went to vote and she went inside. She's been a registered voter since she was 18. And they said that she wasn't registered to vote. So she had to re-register. And then when she went to vote, the ballots were blank. You had to fill in the name of your candidate and your MP's name. And I'm wondering if now they're voiding it if you misspell that name. And if you can't remember the name, a lady will come around with a book. And the first time she opened the first page and said, "Oh, is this your candidate from Edmonton South or Leduc?" And my friend's like, no. Thankfully, she had his name memorized. Let me just show you the text message. She goes, "Okay, I've been a registered voter for every federal election since I turned 18. I registered the day registration opened for this election. Went and voted at the advanced polls tonight. Oh, you aren't registered." We won't read that. "Excuse me," she says. I'm like, "What, really?" "Yep, went after work. I thought it was TikTok BS and people were being over dramatic saying that they registered and then got to the polling station and suddenly weren't registered." So then I said, "That is so, you know what? Can I make a video about this and mention you? Because I want other people to come forward. I've heard other stories of things being messed up." So I said, "I knew they'd steal this election, so you have to register again?" She goes, "I was able to register at the poll and vote tonight. Also, I've never had to write my MP's name on the ballot. It's always been check boxes when I go. This one was a blank voter slip and have to write a candidate's name." So I'm like, what the that's not right. I wonder if they will screw with the votes if you misspell the name. Said Fred in question at our wedding. Now, I've heard stories about Ontario ridings having like 50 names of MPs on a ballot, but I have not heard that you have to actually write your MP's name on there. Is anybody else experiencing this? Please let me know in the comment section or anything. Please try and get some kind of video or picture proof when you go to vote or have registered early to vote for this election. I think that they're seriously trying to screw with this election. Anyway, I'm really sorry about my hair. I'm literally headed to work. I just woke up and I got off last night at like 10:30. So I hope everybody has a great day. Happy Easter. But please, please, please be vigilant and record everything about this election if you can.
Don't let them screw with you. Do not let them screw with you. And if you haven't voted yet and you're going next week, I think Monday it is now because all of the advanced polls are closed. They were open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and today. Ask some of the people who are working, just, in passing, "Hey, what do you guys do with these ballot boxes during that whole week where you had to kind of keep them after the advanced polls?" "Oh, they were put in a very secure place." Or they might say, "I don't know." Or they might say, "Yeah, some of our people were taking them home." But go ahead and ask that question. Usually the people at these polling places are actually pretty polite. Some of them are all business, but you can get through that veneer in about 3 seconds with a smile, especially if they've been waiting around all day long with nothing to do. Want to get back to the World Economic Forum for 1 second. This is a former, what do they call him? Global leader, young global leader. His name is Professor Richard Werner. And here, I wanted to play this earlier, but I didn't have it available. He's talking about central bank digital currencies. Pay close attention because he was in there with these guys. He knows exactly what they're planning.
Really big dangers of CBDCs are the programmability, which is that essentially it's not even money. It's like your money becomes potential money because it depends on a central planner to agree that you should now be allowed to spend this money in this location for this particular transaction and in this particular volume that you want to do. Well, why should that be conditional? But it is going to be when they describe programmability. That's what it's all about. That you can, of course, they present it from a positive side. We can give money to the people who really need it. That's how they will formulate it. But the other side of the coin is that this means that they have their ideas on who should spend money on what and when. and that will be reflected. And sometimes when you want to spend, they'll decide this is no good because you've already used too much carbon. Your carbon footprint is too big, or you've eaten too much beef, or whatever it may be. So we are talking about essentially some kind of social credit scoring or other similar system, and really it's not your money anymore. The push for CBDCs is the final step in a multi-decade program by central planners to increase their power over the people, over countries. This is the ultimate step because the powers of CBDCs are so extraordinary that, even the worst dictators in past centuries could only have dreamt of having such enormous power over the lives of so many people. We are talking about a very dystopian future if we allow central banks to issue central bank digital currencies. And it will be a completely totalitarian system of such frightening proportions, it's hard to imagine.
Maybe I was wrong earlier. Maybe Carney is being installed right in front of our faces. And this vote means nothing. Look at this. Security officials, and China works with the World Economic Forum, don't forget. Security officials report repression operation targeting conservative candidate Joe Tay, suburban Toronto candidate known for his opposition to the Chinese government. What have they been doing? The operation features a mock wanted poster and disparaging headlines and comments about Joe Tay, the conservative candidate for the suburban Toronto riding of Don Valley North. Tay is known for his opposition to Chinese government policies. Last year, Hong Kong police issued arrest warrants for 6 activists based overseas, including Tay, with bounties set at about $185,000. For information leading to their arrests, federal officials told a media briefing Monday the operation is taking place on social media platforms where Chinese-speaking users in Canada are active. I don't even know why we allow that. I guess for the Chinese people here to speak to relatives back home, including Facebook, WeChat, TikTok, RedNote, and Douyin, a sister app of TikTok for the Chinese market. So you have to think, if they're doing this with Joe Tay in that one riding, what other ridings are they doing this in that we haven't heard about just yet? Can Pierre Poilievre stop this? No, of course he can't. Can Pierre Poilievre slow this down? This is what I've been saying the whole time, my friends. This is what I have been saying the whole time. The conservatives can slow this tidal wave down. They're not going to stop it. But in that time, we, the people, can come up with some ideas in opposition of our own. But until we stop this menace, this globalist menace, we haven't got a chance. And so, my friends, again, if you are planning on voting for the People's Party of Canada, and I think that this is going to be a razor-thin margin, razor-thin. Like I was saying before, I think the Conservatives probably get a majority government. This is what my feelings say. This is what everything that I've experienced in elections and media for the past 40 years is telling me. I could be off the mark. And maybe this is stolen. Maybe some of you people out there who've been saying this the whole time, it's stolen, it's stolen. Never mind voting, it doesn't matter. It does. It does. Because if you go and vote, and this whole big blue wave goes out to vote, and Canada sees this massive upswing in, how many people voted, usually 62, 63%. If it goes to 75 or 80%, that means people want change in this country, real change, not Mark Carney change. And if the Conservatives lose with 75 or 80% of people showing up, then we know it was rigged. But regardless, if Poilievre wins this thing, then we've got a chance to stem that tide, at least for a few years. We'll get our free speech back, for starters, which is probably the most important of all of our rights. We need that desperately. Here's Pierre Poilievre over the weekend doing an interview with Global News British Columbia.
The Liberals broke immigration. They destroyed the system by bringing in over 1 million people a year with nowhere to house them. And that's one of the reasons we have this housing crisis. And many had no skills in home building. So what I'm going to do is we're going to be capping immigration. I will ensure that we never add people faster than we add homes. So the numbers target that I set for this year will always be lower than the number of homes that was built in the previous year. And we're going to target newcomers who have trade skills to build homes. Finally, we're going to back union training halls to train up 350,000 young people, bring back the apprenticeship grant, give as a gift a big box of all the trades training manuals to high schools, and hope that the principals will train our will get our young people working on pre-apprenticeships before they even graduate from high school. We need boots, not suits, as I like to say. No new development law, C-69, the Liberals passed, in which Mr. Carney says he will keep, will prevent us from ever building another LNG plant, another pipeline, another expansion to our ports. Radical environmentalists like Gregor Robertson, they don't want to build anything, and they're going to be in charge if the Liberals get a fourth term. We need to change. My candidate, Alice Ross, he was the guy who helped bring out LNG Canada to Northwest British Columbia, the biggest project in Canadian history. He'll be playing a big role in my government. We're going to repeal the Liberal no development law, C-69, give 6-month turnaround time on permits, set up shovel-ready zones that have pre-approved permits so that businesses know they already have a permit as long as they hit the environmental standards to protect public safety. And we are going to, my goal is to approve about 10 LNG plants off the British Columbia coast, with First Nations communities being the primary beneficiaries. They are going to be the richest people in the world, coastal First Nations, if I become Prime Minister, because we are going to unlock our resources, and it is going to be $500 billion of extra resource development over the next 5 years if Canadians vote for a change with the Conservative policies of inflationary policies that price people out of homes, and their catch and release policies have turned loose rampant criminals on our streets. And then, of course, their drug liberalization has killed 50,000 people. Our neighborhoods are overrun with it. But we can reverse all that. It doesn't have to be this way. We have a Conservative plan for a change. And what will we do? 1, 3 strikes, you're out. 3 violent offenses, you go to jail for a minimum of 10 years, a maximum of life, no chance of parole or bail. 0 bail for 3-time offenders. No more catch and release. 2, we're going to bring in life sentences for fentanyl mass traffickers. 3.
Okay, we know all of this stuff, and it's great that he wants to do this. Many people disappointed with his stance on immigration and his stance on Ukraine and having to play that climate change game. I hate that. I've said it many times. I can't stand that. I wish politicians and people in general would have the balls to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, you know what? You guys are sitting there taking this whole climate change narrative and it like it's the grass is green or water is wet. It's not. You need to prove everything you say about this before we can take this one more inch. Period. Because for every expert that you can bring out saying that there is man-made climate change and we're in the middle of a climate catastrophe, I've got a scientist who will tell you that that is wrong. And they will both give us scientific facts, hopefully. And may the better man win. Period. We got to settle that. But they walk around like it's already settled, which is ridiculous. Now, if this election does go the Liberals' way, we're hearing rumblings out of Quebec that they want to separate. Bloc Québécois, yes, that's what we've been after. Of course, Francois Legault doesn't want to separate, but the Parti Québécois does, and they're leading in all of the provincial polls in Quebec. So who knows? They could be talking separation again out there. And what about Alberta? Here's a great piece today from the Fraser Institute, written by Tegan Hill. CPP, another example of Albertans' outsized contributions to Canada. This is the kind of stuff they need to circulate all through Alberta. People in Alberta need to understand exactly what they don't get from Confederation and understand exactly how much better their lives would be financially in terms of freedom of speech and everything if they got rid of this liberal monkey on their back. And that's really the only province in this country, maybe Saskatchewan, that we can say that about. Maybe, possibly British Columbia, but they'd never survive on their own, not with that NDP government. Manitoba, forget about it. Ontario, well, not the way Doug Ford runs it. Amid the economic uncertainty fueled by Trump's trade war, it's perhaps more important than ever to understand Alberta's crucial role in the Federation and its outsized contribution to programs like CPP. From 81 to 2022, Alberta's net contribution to the CPP, meaning the amount of money Albertans paid into the program over and above what retirees in Alberta received in CPP, was $53.6 billion. In 2022, the last year of available data, Albertans' net contribution to the CPP was $3 billion. During that same period, from 81 to 2022, British Columbia was the only other province where residents paid more into the CPP than retirees received in benefits. And Alberta's contribution was 6 times greater than BC's contribution, even with a smaller population. Put differently, residents in 7 out of the 9 provinces that participate in CPP, because Quebec has their own, receive more back in benefits than they contribute to the program. Albertans pay an outsized contribution to federal and national programs, including the CPP, because of the province's relatively high rates of employment, higher average incomes, younger population. Put simply, Albertan workers have been helping fund the retirement of Canadians from coast to coast for decades, and without Alberta, the CPP would look much different. How different? If Alberta withdrew from CPP, and this is, even Poilievre said, please don't do that, and established its own standalone provincial pension plan, Alberta workers would receive the same retirement benefits but at a lower cost than other Canadians, while the contribution rate, essentially the CPP tax rate, to fund the program would likely need to increase for the rest of the country to maintain the same benefits. Oh yeah, by a lot. And given current demographic projections, immigration patterns, and Alberta's long history of leading the provinces in economic growth, Alberta workers will likely continue to pay more into the CPP than Albertan retirees get back from it. I can say to you quite honestly that in the next few months, our country is going to look significantly different in some way. And there's so many different ways this could go. You know, I think 893 things have to happen, and we're on thing 8 right now. But I'm thinking that things could be a lot different if Canada's even a thing by the end of this year or next year. And remember, the year 2030 is coming fast. What's going on across the water? Well, there's a new party in the UK. It's called the UK Independence Party, and here's what's going on over there.
Taking our country back, and we're taking it back from the traitors in that building there. Under a UKIP government, we will detain and deport all illegal invaders, and we will begin the process of remigration and hand justice back to the British people, because enough is enough. It's time to rid that building of traitors and the liberal elite who despise the ordinary hard-working man. We're taking our country back, ladies and gentlemen. Free our political prisoners and free Tommy Robinson.
Thank you so much for watching and helping us expose the two-tier system in Britain. We can only keep fighting back against the communists due to the support of our members, so please consider supporting my mission and the vital work we do at UKIP by joining us as a member today. Thank you.
UKIP, UK Independence Party. Now, people say, well, okay, if they could make such a big splash over there, these brand new parties, like Nigel Farage's party or UKIP, how come we can't do the same thing in Canada? How come it takes so much longer for a new party to establish itself in this country? Well, first of all, what you need is the grassroots. You need the zeitgeist of the country. And the country in and of itself, just the physical size of a country. It takes a lot more in Canada for things to happen nationally. Regionally, sure, they happen quite often. Quebec is a thing of its own. But for something to happen all the way from St. John's, Newfoundland to Victoria, British Columbia, that takes some doing. And generally speaking, they don't happen organically. The Freedom Convoy was a great example of that, theory. What's the word? What's the expression I'm looking for? The mistake that proves the rule, I think. Something like that. Anyway, the exception that proves the rule. But it doesn't happen very often like that. So that's why the People's Party of Canada, probably in the fact that they don't really work hard between elections until the next campaign comes around, but that's a whole other matter. It takes a while to get something going. Now, you could do independence in Alberta because, again, it's a smaller geographic area. Things will spread faster out there. But to get a whole thing going like a brand new party and then feel that vibe all the way across the country and keep it going from Victoria to St. John's, it takes a lot. And that could be one of the reasons that we're stuck with these same old parties until we can actually get a nationwide vibe, something that brings us all together, something that brings all Canadians together. We're stuck with what we have. But I'm hoping that the Conservatives win this election and we can spend a couple of years trying to create something like that in Canada, like they've got over there in the UK. One more story from over there in Ireland. Actually, that's Conor McGregor there. Conor McGregor scare halts Dublin mayoral election. Dublin. Now, again, this is just the Marxists saying, no, we're not having an election. He might win. Dublin's mayoral election plans were canceled by the Irish government because mixed martial arts star Conor McGregor might have won. According to local reports, Irish officials had been preparing a public vote on introducing a directly elected mayor of the Irish Republic capital, a long-awaited reform, and growing speculation that populist right-winger McGregor, who has become increasingly vociferous in recent years, could run and win, reportedly led the government to abandon the plan. So we're not having this new election reform because if Conor McGregor wins, then, oh no, we're screwed. Oh, and one more video before. And by the way, tonight on the extension for all you all-access Nighthawks at shadowdavis.com, got a couple of extra surprises for you aside from the final part of Europa, the last battle tonight. This is a video I found earlier today on social media. I forget which social media it was, but you know how those crazy lefties in the United States and even some in Canada have been going around keying Teslas and even firebombing Tesla dealerships or shooting into them. I mean, we've heard all kinds of reports like that. Well, here, this is a Tesla prank. I'm not sure if this was set up or not. You be the judge, but it's funny anyway. Let's have a look.
Eat shit, bud! Eat shit, bud!
What the hell is this? This shit?
Yeah, eat shit. You want more? You want more?
I'll scratch your cart.
I'll blast you, buddy.
Give me more.
I'll blast you.
Give me more.
What you're seeing in the first 10 seconds here is the same thing, but from two different angles, two different cameras.
Eat shit, bud! Eat shit, bud!
What the hell is this? This shit?
Yeah, eat shit. You want more? You want more?
I'll scratch your cart.
I'll blast you, buddy.
Give me more.
I'll blast you.
Give me more.
What is that, a potato gun? I don't know what that is. Is it a paintball gun? I don't know. It's funny. All right, that's it for the show tonight, you guys. Thank you for being here. I love you all. I appreciate you all, and I will catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. All Access Nighthawks, I will see you in 2 minutes.